talked to death about how Azir kind of counters that kind of composition. Graves going to be the ban coming out from Manlight.
Larson quite played a bit of Azir. Lucian going to be banned out here against Smiley. Graves banned specifically for Impaler. I know that Impaler very rarely likes to play anything but Kindred and Graves, because he says if Kindred's banned, I just go on to Graves. So maybe if Kindred does come out as the final ban for Manlight, then we may see Impaler pick up something different.
Well,
in the
we
jungle.
saw him play a lot of Nidalee towards the start of the season. Nidalee's kind of less popular now, but I mean, you're absolutely right with Gragas as well. Gragas is the kind of champion, we talked about this in the past, how Gragas is that champion that every jungler knows how to play, because he's been in the meta multiple times, and when he is in the meta, he's in for a long time. He's there for the long haul. Yeah,
and I think Nidalee is still decent. She's just not as oppressive as she once was. The nerfs did hit her fairly hard. It just means that Gragas is probably more viable in a lot of senses. I think if Kindred is not banned here, it's going to be a first pick. I imagine potentially for Renegades, because it is just an S tier jungler right now. Gragas kind of counters her in some situations, just if you use that ultimate. Probably if that's a Sejuani, holy moly, I have seen one Sejuani recently.
Yeah, I think you're being trolled right there. Gangplank is going to be the last ban coming on through though, so Kindred is available right now for Impaler if that's what they want to choose to go for. Jhin being hovered right now. I'm not going to talk about the hovers because it's probably going to change. Jhin definitely could be a first pick. It's very strong AD carry right now.
For sure. It's going to be Poppy for Alphari. Actually, this is something we did see them do in the I-Series. And this exactly same story happened here. Alphari was prioritized with the Poppy. The Kindred went immediately to the next team in that rotation, and then we saw Impaler pick up something like Gragas.
Yeah.
So again, it's not much between Gragas and Kindred, but Kindred has kind of come to the forefront of the best jungler in the game right now.
I think it's just the fact that Gragas is the kind of champion where it's more about, or specifically in that matchup, in my opinion, it's kind of Kindred choosing where she wants to go, usually depending on where the mark is on the map, and Gragas kind of trying to answer for that and trying to more play reactively, and you always want to be the player that's on the proactive side of that.
Exactly. And what is also interesting about the Gragas Kindred matchup is that, people say Explosive Cask, Lamb's Respite, you can knock people out of it, but in a lot of situations, sometimes you don't want to use Explosive Cask. You don't want to wait until Lamb's Respite comes down to use Explosive Cask. You want to be using it as an engage tool, as a separation tool to pick someone off. So it's sort of like, yes, it's a counter if you use it after Kindred's Lamb's Respite has come down and you manage to hit a pretty solid cask, but you do then lose the ability for engage and separation using the cask as well. I wouldn't be averse to seeing Hiva on that Alistair here, and then we see the Gragas too, because then you really are starting to put pressure on the Kindred as to when she can use that Lamb's Respite properly. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that in a rotation from... I mean, there's no point picking the Alistair right now, right? Because you've already... You already know they're not picking it, so there's no reason to show that card. But looks like Yuki going to be going on with that Kalista. And actually, Elise going to be locked in from Impaler. Now, Elise was a champion that was very strong towards the start of this season, but it was always kind of like third or fourth priority. Yeah, she had a very short burst of being right at the forefront.
Yeah.
I actually really like Elise into Kindred. I think she does better in terms of a 1v1 matchup than the Lee Sin does, just because you can lock her down. You can lock Kindred down with that web. And then the burst potential is also incredibly strong. You can juke out the final auto attack on the E from Kindred as well. So all of it is helps you win that 1 versus 1 here. It's going to be Yuki picking up the Kalista once more. So even despite the nerfs, still really prioritizing that as an AD carry pick. Maybe Smiley going for the Sivir here, given the fact that Azir is down. You're unlikely going to see Kadril play the Anivia either.
And it looks like they are going to lock in the Rammus as well for Rifty up in that top lane. We'll see, I mean, how much effect that's going to have. He's going to be up against the Poppy now. Directly Poppy Rammus, I don't think is a matchup I've specifically seen in the past. But Poppy typically tends to do well in the majority of matchups.
Poppy has a fine matchup against Rammus, especially if, I don't think Rifty will allow this to happen, but if you get stunned into wall and take a full Q in terms of the the health damage that it does, it can be really, really difficult to win it. But honestly, it's kind of a bit of a status quo. I would say the edges get slightly given to Poppy because Rammus really has to commit in terms of damage, and Poppy doesn't have to auto-attack to get her damage down, right? She can just use that Q over and over. I do like the Lissandra here. It's like the biggest counter into the Kindred you can get, right? If you flank with the Lissandra, you lock her up with the Frozen Tomb. She can't use Lamb's Respite.
Yeah. And as well, it's actually to some extent a counter to Rammus because of the amount of slows and CCs you have. Like Rammus powerballing in, you Ring of Frost, he just spins on the spot.
Exactly, yeah, stops him in his tracks. So yeah, I really, and also actually Poppy's pretty good in that situation as well. You know, Powerball comes in, wham, like, you know, like golf.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
You just knock that golf ball in the form of Rammus way over the map. But yeah, I really like Lissandra here. Probably the biggest, literally, like I said, probably one of the biggest counters against the Kindred. If you can burst the Kindred before Lamb's Respite comes down, you've completely taken out one of the tools.
Interestingly, we're going to see Trundle support come out here, not Alistair. So we were kind of expecting the Kalista-Alistair combo to come out, but Hiva opting to go for that Trundle. I would expect that is kind of just an answer to the Rammus more than anything else. I don't think that's necessarily that they think Trundle fits their comp better than Alistair. I think it's more that it fits the opponent's comp better to some extent. As in, you want to be able to somehow kill Rifty, and realistically, Caedrel doesn't actually have, or not Caedrel, sorry, Yuki doesn't actually have that much damage to be able to get through a Rammus's armor. So with Hiva being able to ult the Rammus at the same time, then they're going to be able to actually kill that armadillo.
My issue here is you've got Larson on the Lulu. Now, there are two things that can happen here. I do think the composition is, again, lacking damage if Furion doesn't get to a position where he's going to be a huge damage threat. Obviously, most Kindreds do manage to get to that state. They stack that Devour and do become a threat. Now, Caedrel's going to jump in. He's going to use that Frozen Tomb. I imagine Larson's then going to have to use his Lulu ultimate onto the Kindred ASAP, right? So that kind of counters that there, but you really have to be worried whether the Lulu ultimate is going to be enough versus what is going to be a full collapse, I think, from the Renegades lineup.
I think the question we have to ask as well is how do the two teams decide to play these compositions? Because you look at a Lissandra and like immediately the first thing that comes to mind is either pick or team fight, because Lissandra is so good at team fighting. You offer so much control to your team. But that's not the style that we've typically seen out of the Banditos, and it's not really the style we've seen much out of Manalite. And when you look at the composition for Manalite as well, you've got a lot of wave clear there. You do definitely have a very strong team fight on the side of Manalite. And while I agree Larson isn't going to have that much damage on the Lulu, and it's going to be a lot down to Furion being able to step up to match that damage, it definitely feels like maybe Banditos just don't play into that team fight ever. You can easily do 1-3-1 with a Poppy and a Lissandra.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely could do 1-3-1, especially given the fact that Larson won't have teleport here. So you can go 1-3-1 and force things with that teleport across the map, and Larson will never really be able to have an impact in those team fights. He's gone cleanse because he's worried about the combo of the Cocoon and the Frozen Tomb in the later stages of the game, so he wants to remain safe. But maybe that might not be the real focus here for Renegades. I say that, but Renegades do love to gank heavy, despite the situation that's presented in front of them. They do love to apply pressure with Impaler. So yeah, I'm kind of interested. I think Lulu works really well with Rammus, as does Sivir. You've got basically a really speedy Powerball there. If Alfari can land the ultimate, though, that kind of negates it. And also, like you said, Ring of Frost, really, really good against the Rammus. So if that goes wrong, then I feel like Manalite are in a really bad position. And also, they're really relying on Kindred to become a damage threat too. Because without Kindred becoming a damage threat, you're just in that situation that we've talked about with the Lulu and Sivir, that you're kind of lacking damage. Rammus is okay damage, you know, he can force the opponent to damage themselves more than anything. But it's not exactly like carry level damage. Whereas you see from Renegades, it's basically a quadruple threat composition, and even Trundle in some senses acts as a threat.
Which is something we've seen from Renegades
every single time
in the past.
They always run multiple threats because all of them are threatening players.
Yeah.
That's just how their team works. And I think these two team comps epitomize the different play styles of these teams. You have...
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You have, on this side, you know, you've got Manalite running very tactical, team-based composition designed at playing the map, looking for a specific way to win the game, where you're going to have the Renegades just playing a quadruple threat composition where they're just literally going to look for all of them to be threatening in some way and win from there. So, you know, this is the real epitome of these two teams taking probably some of their best areas of League of Legends play and pitting it against each other, which is, I think, why we're going to have a really good game on our hands.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be definitely a game to remember. It is a best of one, though, between Renegades, Banditos, and Manalites. Now, the Banditos managed to take the advantage at I-Series recently, and Manalite is certainly going to be looking to try and get back on that horse. The actual score by the end of I-Series, after the amount of games that they played against each other, they played as many games against each other as was possible in the bracket. The final score was 4-3 across all of the games in favor of the Banditos, and Manalite are going to be looking to rectify that score and turn it into a tiebreaker at 4-4. But in terms of our tournament specifically, both of these teams are 6-0 in the standings right now. They are battling for first seed. They're moving into playoffs right now. And if I'm either of these teams right now, I don't want to be the one that has to go against Exertus in the semifinals after looking at their performance.
Yeah, for sure. So you definitely want to give yourself the best chance of moving through to that final. And look, I think Choke are a really good team, but based on the performance versus Exertus, you'd say Exertus definitely have stepped up a notch from this point in time. So like you said, neither of them are going to want to go into a very hard-fought series with that team. I think both would favour themselves going in just based on past performances, but really, I wouldn't want to be either team going in as second seed.
No, it definitely, it's not a great position to be in. And as well, let's just remember that outside of just the specific stuff in relation to standings, there's also the matter of a small amount of prize money.
Yeah, there is definitely a small amount of prize money at stake as we just get into game here. Thank you. Sorry, I was just making hand signals.
Two bizarre hand signals, and it's
yeah.
We actually have a fun fact on the screen of being told by production. You can make a Poro grow a black mustache by feeding it Poro snacks while playing as Brawl.
Wow, thank you, ESL Premgrem. Fun facts.
Did you know, Premgrems, that Poro snacks only exist on ARAM? So actually, that's not a massively relevant fact on Summoner's Rift because it's not doable.
Hey Munch, don't ruin the fun.
Sorry, guys.
ESL Premgrams work very hard for these fun facts. Like the last game's fun fact where the winner turns into the third seed, despite us telling the viewers 4 times.
It's, I don't know. I mean, that is a fun fact.
That is a fun
if you
fact,
didn't know that and you're a big ARAM player, definitely have a... Oh, I'd say have a go on Brawl.
I'd say it's more fun than a team getting third seed, right? It's definitely...
Nothing is more fun than a team getting third seed, my friend. Now that's a fact, but we are ready to get into this. Our preview monitor has just timed out by the looks of things. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Back in the
hello,
game.
preview monitor. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, but here we go. We're getting into this game. No lane swap shenanigans coming out in this one. So first game today where we don't see any kind of lane swap going down, but it is just going to be standard laning for this one.
It's going to be standard lane, and that's what I want to see from this game right here. Standard laning, the first standard lane setup I think we've had of the ESL Premiership today.
Yep.
And it's going to be explosive of these two teams really now pitting their skill against each other in the laning phase.
I want to see this bottom lane right now because we haven't seen really Yuki and Hiva struggle in a bottom lane just yet, but we have seen them do so much terrifying work at level 2, and they've just hit level 2. Hado is in a lot of trouble. They're stacking up the Ren. They can't quite finish him though, but they are going to burn 2 summoner spells.
Wow, yeah, that was a really good level 2 push. And
every game from Banditos at level 2, they go for it in the bottom lane.
They push the lane really hard, and actually I don't think that Hado completely calculated the potential for, I guess, getting that level 2 early here. He went up to try and take the minion with his execute, and then unfortunately just got caught out. And that's the charge I'm talking about. Already Rifty struggling. Look
at the damage onto Rifty up in that top lane. Alfari, known as kind of a lane bully player. He loves to just kind of dominate in a 1 versus 1, and so far doing a good job of that. In terms of damage, we'll see whether that does turn into a CS lead as well. We'll have to wait and see, but take a look at the bot lane, actually. While Yuki and Hiva have been doing a lot in terms of pressure, if you actually look at the CS, there's a lot of minions under this tower, and they are just about even so far. So Smiley might be able to get ahead a tiny bit just here, and will be able to do so. So good job there by Smiley to stay ahead despite that pressure.
And I actually think, interestingly, the normal lane setups kind of favor Renegades, because it means that they can play this kind of chaotic gank-heavy style that they like to. They're trying to catch out Fury at this point in time. Impaler, looking for the counter jungle here, is just going to back off after using his repel.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I think that the normal lane matchup kind of favors the Renegades.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's typically how they like to build their compositions. They like to go for teams that can just straight up win their lanes if you do get that standard matchup. It's kind of like, we dare you to lane swap against us, because if you don't, you are going to lose lanes, and we'll see whether that's going to be the case in this game. We are going to see Furion heading up to this top lane, though. He did walk past a ward in Tribrush, so Alfari looks like he's going to be able to get away with that one just fine, and Rifty was kind of too low to really commit to that fight anyway.
Yeah, for sure. He should back off after clearing this wave, potentially pick up maybe an early Ruby Crystal. I don't think he'll have enough for the Barmy Cinder. That I imagine that'll be obviously the first item he'll look to go for, because I think that'll be the first item that Captain Alfari looks to go for on this Poppy. But Alfari already having a good time of things, now sitting at 12 CS ahead, 14 just, you know, racking it up right now as he pushes these waves. What is so interesting is he's using that passive so effectively versus the Rammus, every single time stepping up and throwing the shield directly at him. And you can see Rifty already struggling. He's going to walk into the minions here. He has got that Grasp of the Undying to heal him up a little bit. And he'll just look to farm up under turret here in this top lane.
And also, walking into the minions is kind of how you... It's your only wave clear when you're playing Rammus, is you've got to get them to kill themselves. But we'll see. And it looks like he's going to be able to get that wave clear on the go. So he's going to be A-OK in that one. But he's already 10 CS down, so it's not feeling too fantastic right now as Alfari looks to try and base. But actually, he's managed to kind of bait Rifty into a bit of a skirmish. And in fact, Rifty's more than happy to go for it. Alfari so far not quite winning out. I say that actually he is winning out and will get first blood. The solo kill comes out from Alfari. And this is the Alfari that we've kind of learned to expect.
Again, I just think poor choice of fight here for Rifty in that top lane. It is a matchup that is pretty difficult. You can survive it as Rammus, like we said in Champ Select, but you know, he's just allowed Alfari to bully him. And you saw that, you know, you were talking about the wave clear that Rammus has, right? He just walks into the wave and he uses that W, the Powerball, just to allow him to clear waves. But he took so much damage for his troubles there. And that kind of had a real issue. I don't know why he was looking for the fight. He really, realistically, probably shouldn't have been looking for the fight. Oh. May even see a dive here as Kadril heads down. He is level 6.
Yeah, Hiva going to be looking for that pillar. Phil, beautiful pillar onto Smiley. He's going to be locked up. He's used his spell shield already, I believe. Teleport going to be channeled, though. Kadril using his ultimate onto himself as Hiva goes very far forward. But Alfari decides to cancel his TP in the end, and we'll just continue to head up to that top lane.
Yeah, Kadril...
Actually, we've got Larson coming on in from the side as well. Kadril might be in trouble here. Going to be slowed down. Thunderlord's procs as well. And actually, there's no way Kadril's getting away. Or is he? Jumps over the wall. A beautiful Ring of Frost before going for that jump as well.
Super good. Stop the ward over and stop the potential Glitter Lance too. Now Yuki, he may be in trouble, but will just get away with another...
Minion block for days right there onto Hado and Smiley. That's a bit unfortunate for them.
Yeah, so a potential crisis averted for the Manolite squad with good backup from Larson and good backup from Furion too. But realistically, despite very little gold difference, only just 1,000 at this point in time, Renegades definitely look like they're starting to win this lane and the, you know, early portion of this game out too. Yeah,
absolutely, and that's kind of what we expect from the Renegades, because typically their strategies rely on them being ahead from the laning phase. But here we go, Rifty heading back up towards that top lane. 20 CS down now, but don't forget, guys, as well, if you want to come and see these players play live at our playoffs this weekend, you can find the tickets on our website. Make sure you come and see us. We're going to have a whole bunch of other guys here as well. There's going to be me, you, there's going to be Sona here, there's going to be Vedius, Action Jackson, we're going to have Brixton here, Matt Andrews, there's plenty of the whole gang's here, and it's time for us to do what we want to. But enough about the Mambo number 5. Let's get back into this game. It is so far just 1-0, and actually a much slower start to the game than I kind of expected out of these two teams, but a 1,000 gold lead in favor of the Banditos so far.
Look at the vision control right now for the Renegades. You can just see the whole of that mid area just lit up by pink wards, especially the top side around the Rift Herald. That's not going down anytime soon without them knowing. Last, I'm going to try and maintain some vision over this Dragon area. I think Dragon's going to be pretty important to Furion, like we said. As a Devourer jungler, you really want to make sure that you pick up those 5 stacks as safely and as quickly as possible, because it helps you get towards that 30 stacks that you need.
And one thing as well is Dragon actually could be a major objective in this game, because we're 9 minutes in and we've only seen 1 kill so far. This could actually be a much slower game than what we're used to seeing out of either of these teams. So definitely potential for that.
I feel like it's on the tipping edge right now because of the way that Renegades are playing. You just can feel like something explosive is going to happen pretty shortly.
Larson, I thought he was going to be in trouble then. I thought Kadril was just going to go for it, and he doesn't follow up on the Claw of Doom, though. And that is going to be Larson just about A-OK, as Impaler is just going to try and clear some of that vision around the Herald. Look at how the vision is split right now. You got Manalite completely controlling the Dragon area, but the Herald completely controlled by the Banditos.
Definitely, and I feel like everything feels on a bit of a tipping point here. CS is kind of maintained across the board, apart from that top lane where that 20 CS differential still stands. Now that Barmy Cinder has been completed for Rifty, he does seem to be having a slightly better time in lane. But you can see, you know, how far he leaps and bounds ahead with that Spectre's Cow. He's going to really have a better time. You can see Rifty just clearing the wave out, doing as much damage as possible. And that's kind of how he's going to have to play this matchup, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just clear waves. Just make sure you can get towards the late game. Impaler here at the bot side.
Yeah, it certainly is. Nice cocoon onto Haddo as well. Just narrowly misses that minion wave. And here comes Kadril teleporting on in. And Haddo is in a whole bunch of trouble. That's going to be 2 of them already going down, as it's 2 kills across to the Banditos. But here comes the rest of Manalite, who are looking to win out this fight potentially. A nice wild growth onto Rifty is going to keep him alive. They can't win the fight, but they can turn it into a 2-for-1.
2-for-1, but they lose the turret as well. Yuki going down, but picking up his own kill, and Kindred the only kill for Manalite. Honestly, it could have been worse for Manalite. They could have overcommitted, especially when they thought they were potentially turning things around. But honestly, a big win for Renegades. It does give them pressure in that bot side of the map. Now they can maybe look to put pressure on the Dragon ASAP. I think even that Mark is going to get taken away. No, actually, they're going to go just defend that mid lane. But the Mark may be focused by Impaler as soon as he clears out this red buff, and they try to set up for that Dragon.
Absolutely everything the Renegades do just oozes confidence.
Yeah, definitely.
You never feel like watching the Renegades, they're unsure of what they want to do next. You always know that they're kind of just setting up to make the next big play happen. They're setting up to either go for like the 5-man dive that we just saw, or whether it's just setting up to go for their 3-1-1. Whatever it is, whatever the strategy they're going for next is, you know that they're just kind of getting ready for it. But here we go. We've got a lot of players heading up towards this top lane. Rifty looking for a way out right now, but he's not going to be able to find it. Yuki is going to be taunted, but there's just no damage available for Rifty, and he's desperately trying to get away. The Ren stacks up, and that is going to be Alfari. Brings down the hammer to finish that kill off. In the meantime, though, Manalite are going to be able to take this tier 1 tower down in the bottom lane. It's incredibly low. It's not quite going down just yet, but there you go. Smiley finally finishes that one off.
Yeah, in the meantime, it's going to be pressure in that mid lane too. So this should be top lane turret going down in kind, but it may give Manalite the opportunity to take this Dragon, which would be pretty big for Furion. You can see they are looking to focus that one down now. Maybe a mid lane dive coming up, but Haddo is here to help defend this mid lane turret. Impaler and Hiva, they're going to just clear the vision around this Razorbeak.
Yeah.
Maybe just providing Yuki with both some safety and also maybe giving Larson to something to think about. Kadril doing a lot of damage here.
Yeah, Kadril is going to be able to get a lot of pressure out onto Larson just there, but Larson's going to be A-OK on the back of that one. Still not quite finished his Rod of Ages, though, importantly, and Kadril has already got that item for himself. So that is a huge kind of power advantage in favor of Kadril in these early trades. And as well, Lissandra typically very good at trading, especially around this sort of portion of the game. But Larson going to be able to at least defend this mid lane tower. But here we go. A lot of minions starting to get pushed up towards this tier 2 up in the top lane. Smiley going to be there to clear away those minions. And in fact, they just are going to push that one wave out using Rifty and then head to the rest of the map. But so far, it definitely feels like the Renegades are setting the pace for this game. It definitely feels like they're the ones that are kind of choosing what the next objective is, and Manolite are reacting.
Honestly, a lot of the plays that have been made for Renegades have been because of their superior vision control. You saw that bot lane dive wouldn't have been possible without Impaler being sat in that tri-bush for, you know, absolute free. He had no idea he was there, and then they confidently, like you said, it literally oozed confidence. 5-man straight onto the tower, everything plays out the way it should do, and they come away with a tower and 2 kills. Yeah. It seems like they don't even need to try to make this kind of thing happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And now they're starting to get this pressure down onto the mid lane tower, and a lot of damage coming out onto Hado as well. That was Heaver's ultimate used on top of it, but there goes Cadril. Manages to grab himself a kill, and he's looking for another one. Fury and gets the wild growth along with Lamb's Respite. Is going to survive, but Smiley is exhausted. Alfari flashes for him, but it's going to be Heaver going down on the other side of the fight. Cadril just desperately trying to escape, but Larson flashes for the kill, and it's Manolite winning out on this one.
Exactly, that was, again, a very confident play.
Rifty isn't done just yet, though. Alfari on this front line is going to be going down, and another kill picked up for Manolite. Yuki, so low on HP. He cannot stay to defend this tower. If he sticks around, he will die right now. Just doing whatever he can to try and clear a couple of minions, but that is going to be another tower for Manolite.
This is what we talked about in terms of the borderline between confidence and overconfidence from the Renegades. They made it happen in the bot lane for sure, but they overcommitted behind that turret in the mid lane. Didn't even manage to get it down either, because obviously in that bot lane they were really planning on pushing behind that turret. It's a little bit more risky to push behind the turret in the shorter lane, because there's a very small border between aggroing the second turret and aggroing the first turret. You're always going to probably remain in aggro range of one of those 2 turrets.
Yeah.
And again, they seemed like they were very confident in their play, but Manolite were ready for it this time. They probably knew that the dive was coming, given that they couldn't see where Cadril was. And they come out on top. But
I think one major thing in that dive as well is Heaver didn't have his ultimate available. He'd already used that onto Hado. Speaking of Hado, gets a triple knock-up. Yuki going to be stunned up here by one more auto attack, and Larson finishes off the kill. Rifty rolled on into that fight as well, and now Heaver is just desperately trying to escape. Impaler lands the cocoon and is going to flash forward to try and finish off Hado, but a nice shield is going to come out to save him. Rifty now locked against the wall, but he's so tanky already. Alfari now going to be locked up. The boomerang blade chunking him on out, but should be able to get to safety. Manolite, you need to take a leaf out of your own book and not overextend for this.
Yeah, but they've managed to even up through a series of plays what looked like a game completely in control of the Renegades. Manolite are trying to work their way back in here. They've exploited some of the potentially more questionable plays of Manolite. Furion overcommits over the wall, but he's going for it.
Yeah, Furion is definitely going for it. That's one way to put it. He does have to flash away just to get to safety on that one. Not 100% sure that was the best decision ever.
Blindly jumps into the blue buff pit of the Renegades, and there is Impaler waiting in his web. And just forces the flash from Furion as well. It was such a risky play to make, but again, don't take risks, don't win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go. Speaking of risks, Smiley is pushing up quite aggressively in this top lane, but the rest of his team now finally arriving, and they can start to head on towards this tier 1 tower. Furion doesn't have flash, and the enemy team is well aware of that one. He's going to get completely locked up. Lamb's Respite is available, and they can go super aggressive if they choose to. Alfari teleporting in and is going to finish channeling that one, but I don't think he can really get into the fight. Cadril waiting on the wings, just looking for a way in to start this fight off once more, but it is 4 versus 5. Heaver will not be available, so Rifty will be that horrendous tanky armadillo that they'll have to deal with. Cadril still eking forwards, though. He wants to find someone, and Smiley might be the one he's found, but a beautiful ward is going to keep Smiley alive. Predicted that flank a mile away.
Yeah, and they're going to get their red buff, so they managed to maintain that one. Don't get the turret for their labors, but they get yet another kill, which helps them sort of even things out. They've managed to keep it down to a 1.5k gold lead at this point in time, so it's good play by Manolite right now. Very calculated. They know the level of risks that they need to take, and Smiley on that Sivir starting to get the gold that he needs to become a threat in his own right. So
I love how close it is between these.
It is very close, right? Yeah, I mean, I was worried right at the start of the game. Smiley.
Yeah, Smiley has been caught up in this top lane. Alfari found him 1 versus 1, and we know what happens when Alfari finds a 1 versus 1. That is going to be one dead AD carry. I'm not 100% sure why Smiley was still there. I think he was maybe expecting everyone to be gone to try and get that tower.
Exactly. I just think he just assumed whereas we all know that assumption is the mother of all mess-ups. So he assumed that there was no one there.
When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Yeah, exactly. And he assumed wrongly, because Captain Alfari was sat in that top lane waiting for that to happen. He didn't manage to spell shield the charge either. Had he spell shielded that charge, I think maybe he would have been able to get out and away on time.
Yeah, absolutely. But Hado just going to be trying to desperately defend any vision that they have in this jungle right now, but actually he's been found out by Heaver. The Pillar of Filth is going to block him, and he's walking into the rest of the enemy team as well. Ren stacking on up, and they might be able to finish him. They do. In fact, Yuki grabs that kill for himself, and Heaver has walked under the tower, but that is going to be Fate's call to pull him to safety. And now suddenly there are 5 members for Banditos pushing onto a tier 2, but it doesn't look like Manalite are done just yet. Kadril desperately trying to get out, but he gets stunned up, locked up, and has to use his ultimate. Flashes away and will survive, but now Rifty cannot continue to chase this one. Smiley's ultimate is on cooldown. Kadril narrowly escapes with his life from that boomerang blade, but all this time Alfari has been pushing away in this top lane.
And he should get this top lane tier 2 turret as well. He hasn't picked up the Sheen. He's going for a very defensive build here, but he's still a threat in terms of a split pusher. He's obviously an AD champion and will push them slightly faster than the Rammus will. So he's going to back off here, but they're going to get the Dragon as well, so all in all a bit of win. I'm unsure about the positioning from Hado there. I don't think that was the correct move to, I guess in a way, taunt the Renegades lineup into going for an engage. He wasn't able to escape. He didn't use that stand behind me to its great, its maximum effect, and unfortunately he just had too many Ren stacks on him by the time that he made it to safety, and Yuki managed to get the execute there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rifty now heading up towards that top lane. Alfari doesn't have teleport, so Rifty should just about be able to finish this, and actually is going to use Tremors as well just to make sure he can secure that tower. So a nice objective picked up here by Manalite, and that is going to mean that the gold is just 2 and a bit thousand ahead in favor of the Banditos, which at 20 minutes, 2,000 gold, not really the end of the world. It is obviously a lead. It is definitely still in favor of the Banditos, but not any crazy kind of lead. And definitely, I mean, this game is just on a coin toss still for me. Even in terms of compositions, I don't feel like one team composition is necessarily stronger than the other. No. I feel like they're just different styles.
Definitely, for sure. And obviously, I do think there are more, obviously, like we said, more threats on the side of the Renegades lineup. Every single one of them could be a threat. And also that Frozen Heart picked up very early here for Poppy is pretty huge into the Sivir and the Kindred to a respect. So, yeah, I guess you have to play the team fights better, I would say, on Manlight's side. I think there is room for mistakes on the Renegades lineup because of the amount of damage sources that they have, whereas you do have limited damage sources for Manlight, so that it gives you less room to maneuver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we'll see whether those extra threats on the side of Banditos are going to be the difference later on in these team fights. Obviously, Lamb's Respite is in favor of Manalite this time, so when you're kind of running more threats in your composition, typically that means that you kind of got a squishier composition, so maybe the lack of that Lem's Respite might be an issue for them. I
like the build path from Rifty here, by the way. He's just forgone any magic resist, because he realizes that he really isn't going to be the focus target of either the Lissandra or Elise, to be honest, and he's very happy to just say, Yuki is really my main target, so I'm just going to build specifically to deal with this Kalista.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so far it's doing pretty okay for him. 1, 2, 4 on that Rammus, but also he's been a crucial member for Manalite in these fights so far. He's definitely been doing work for his team. However, no matter how well he's doing, he's still going to be directly compared with Alfari, who is kind of taking this game by the scruff of the neck right now. 200 CS, he's 40 ahead of his lane opponent, and he already has 3 kills and assists for himself. So
he's picked up a Jarim's Fist, which means that builds into several different build paths. Frozen Mallet, unlikely that he'll go for that. Titanic Hydra,
it's typically Sterex, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Kadril has been found out here, and we'll be able to get the Ring of Frost off before jumping away, but Baron has found him, and he has to use his ultimate on himself. Impaler now being zoned away by Rifty as Alfari gets a nice knockback and will keep himself alive momentarily, but Baron is still attacking. Alfari has been caught by Furion, who's now under control of the Baron. Everybody's been taken by the worm right now. Heaver is desperately trying to escape as Rifty is powerballing on through. He can't quite find his target. Flashes for the stun. Will get that taunt, and that is going to be a kill going over to Rifty as well. All in all, it's a 2 for 0 for Manalite, but they found Impaler as well, and he is going to be forced to flash away. Nice Glacial Fissure from the Haddo, and actually Baron, after trying to kill every member, it looks like Manalite want revenge.
Yeah, I'm not sure I enjoy this Baron call right here, especially with the Lissandra available. I don't think Manalite enjoy it either. They are just going to back off. They're trying to bait out the face check from Impaler, but that was not going to happen here. Manalite making a sensible decision just to move away from the Baron.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, they don't really have the minion waves in a good spot to be able to push anywhere right now.
Yeah.
So it is going to just be
kills
the
for the
fight
kills.
one for them. I mean, still 2,000 gold behind. And this is one of the things about the Banditos that has been consistent throughout the Premiership, is even when they're losing fights and things, it always feels like they have this gold lead that whoever is against them just can't quite close that gap. It always just continues to, at very least, maintain at that distance.
I completely agree. We saw it in the TCA map where TCA even got ahead in gold, but they never quite got far enough ahead to say that Renegades were out of the running.
Yeah.
They have this ability just to maintain ridiculously high gold income, despite even potentially being behind and losing fights in some situations. Again, I think it's partly due to the CS. You can see CS differences across the board here.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. Like, I mean, no, it's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. 30 CS up in the top lane. You've got 50 almost, or just about over 40 CS in the mid lane for Kadril. And then in the bottom lane as well, 30 CS advantage for Yuki. So it's just this consistent ability to maintain these high CS numbers throughout, beyond the laning phase. And bit of a skirmish between Alfari and Rifty, but nothing too crazy. And actually, teleport available for Rifty, but not for Alfari. And this could mean that Manalite maybe can make a play, but they're going to be pushing on towards this mid lane tier 2 tower. Get it down to half HP at least. But not really anything coming out from the Banditos to answer for that.
Yeah, and Impaler going for the Randuin's Omen here, so kind of a two-pronged approach from the defensive lineup of the Renegades. You have the Frozen Heart passively reducing the attack speed, and then you have the Randuins for when slowing down the Rammus, stopping any kind of Sivir shenanigans as well, and also meaning that he can also maintain a kind of frontline approach to dealing with the Manalite line. They're going to go with the Callista onto the Baron very, very quickly here, and the rest of Manalite look to be caught with their pants down.
Yeah, absolutely. Manalite looking to desperately get over here as fast as possible. Yuki stacking up that Ren, though. They need to be able to contest this ASAP, but they're running out of time. Haddo has been locked up against the wall. Glacial Fissure is going to knock up only Alfari as Kadril jumps forward, and the Baron is going to be taken by the Banditos. Can they win the fight, though? That's the question. Smiley gets exhausted and just gets obliterated. Haddo desperately trying to escape from the fight, and he will be able to do so. But now Furion's arriving again. They've got a second AD carry to work with. Larson looking for the slow but can't quite find it. Mounting Dread gets onto Alfari, but the stun lands on Furion, and Lamb's Respite finally comes out. Everybody is so low right now, but Furion finally gets dropped. Larson, the next target, flashes away and will be able to get himself to safety, but here comes Rifty powerballing in. He's looking for blood, and he hasn't quite found it. The Cocoon denies anything. Rifty has to walk away, and Manalite actually losing out on this on Kadril now, looking for more. Haddo just about saves Larson in the end. Kadril will be able to walk away with that Baron buff still intact, and nobody from the Banditos died.
Yeah, that looked so close at one point, but again, just weren't respecting the fact that Callista and Elise had a pretty quick ability to take that Baron down. They were busy focusing around the blue buff. Good vision control. Look at the vision control of Manalite Renegades. They knew that 3 members were around the blue buff. So they said, we can take this. We can take this very quick. I mean, it was close to cool. When you saw the actual Baron fight, it was fingers and toenails away from potentially being a full-on fight steal, but well kited, I would say, especially the ultimate from Kadril. He just blocked everybody from getting towards that Baron pit and allowed both Yuki and Impaler to smite that one down, and it's given a huge advantage back over to the side of the Renegades. But don't count Manalite out just yet. This game is certainly not over. very close competition between our top two teams once again.
Now, 4,500 gold lead now in favor of the Banditos. So, while you can't count out Manalite, the Banditos certainly are feeling to be in a good position right now, but they still have 2 Tier 2 towers to deal with. At 27 minutes, that's not something I'm used to saying about about the Banditos. They're really having to play a much slower pace of game than what they are used to getting away with. But it definitely feels like getting away with in a lot of their games. They kind of just do what they want, and teams don't know how to punish them well enough. But
exactly.
Up against Manalite, they can actually be punished.
They have been punished as well. Some of the plays they made have definitely been punished.
Yeah.
I was kind of... I think a lot of the reason that last team fight was won so convincingly was a really wonderfully placed Poppy ultimate from Alphari. It knocked Furion, one of the real fail-safes for the Manalite team. He was knocked really far away, and like we said, without him, one of the damage threats, it kind of makes the composition less effective. Furion now the target.
Furion's locked up by that frozen tomb, but he's going to be able to survive. Nice knock up from Hado. Kadril jumps back into the fight though, and it's going to be 1 over to Yuki, who's incredibly low himself. Smiley manages to get away from the fight though, and it's just going to be 1 support picked up in favor of the Banditos, but the inhibitor tower is now wide open, and they are going to just destroy it so quickly. Now onto the inhibitor, but they are not done just yet. Manalite jumping straight on back into this fight. Alphari flashes for the stun onto Furion and will pick up the kill. That is going to be the inhibitor going down for the Banditos. They've got the advantage that they've finally been looking for. This, oh, Rifty just gets denied by the pillar. That was beautiful out of Hiva. But that is finally something concrete for the Banditos. That is now something that Manalite are going to struggle to deal with.
And you know what's really interesting? It's something that I hadn't thought about that was literally just displayed in the last team fight as another team fight trying to break out here.
Still continuing to go for this on Manalite are not finished just yet. Alphari on this front line is incredibly low. Lockett is going to keep him alive a little bit longer, but the ricochets might just be picking up kills because everybody's so low. Alphari goes down, and that's Sivir ultimate back off cooldown. Hado looking for the slow onto Hiva, can't quite find it. A nice pillar is going to deny stuff, but a nice flash gets Yuki. Hiva's going to go down as well, and it's a double kill coming across for Rifty, but there are no minions to work with for Manalite. They've got to tank this tower right now. Smiley has the red buff. He can take down these objectives. And Manalite managed to punish the Banditos even when they lost that inhibitor.
Oh, wow. Really, really good chase potential, like we said, from Manalite. They've got, you know, they've got Larsen's Glitterlance to slow the enemy. They've got huge speed ups from the Rammus and from Sivir. Yeah, good turn by Manalite to keep themselves in contest here, but that's an inhibitor for 3 kills, which at the end of the day, you would imagine Renegades would trade most days of the week. I was making
the thing is, actually, they can start to push towards this other inhibitor as well. There isn't really that much wave clear. They're going to get the tower at
they need to be careful. They need to be really careful, and you can see they know it.
Yeah. Oh, Smiley got caught by the cocoon. Oh, but there's no follow-up. Okay, I got too excited.
And Sivir ultimate comes down once more. So yeah, they get the inhibitor turret for sure. It does give them a little bit of gold back in their back pockets. Now closing it to 3k, which you would say is not that significant at this point in time. But, you know, there's still that huge pressure now going to be put onto that bot lane with the open inhibitor. It will allow the Renegades lineup to potentially look around the map to apply split pressure, to pressure that top lane. I imagine Alphari wants... Yeah, Alphari might move down towards that bot lane to push it in and then teleport in when needed. I keep forgetting to mention this. I think Kalista is actually really good against Kindred. Because if you jump into that Lamb's Respite and you're building stacks, as soon as the heal comes down, your Rens actually kind of counteract the heal and you just execute everyone. You saw it in that fight around the inhibitor turret. He just executed people when they came out of Lamb's Respite. It's something I actually, for some reason, never thought about before, but yeah, it seems to be working out well for Yuki, and maybe one of the reasons that they picked it. Because they knew
and also because they pick it every game.
Yeah, but obviously with the nerfs. We actually saw Yuki play some other things with the nerfs.
Oh, Yuki's been found. Speaking of, he's actually had to flash away, and Rifty is looking to maybe try and punish on this one. Impaler is going to be there, but Rifty manages to get the taunt regardless. QSS comes out, but it's nowhere near enough, and now Impaler, trying to save his AD carry, has found himself in a precarious situation. He repels on down and will be finished off. The rest of the Banditos have to just recall as fast as possible because the mid lane inhibitor is going down, and that's a very good question. Rifty is very tanky, and there are 2 AD carries for Manalite. They're looking to take this game and make it 4-4 between these teams. They're looking to go 7-1. Heaver trying to get in onto this fight, but he's just not tanky enough. Rifty is so low though, just narrowly escapes from that Nexus tower. That is the first tower going down. Kadril so close to going down. Exhaust is going to be there and it finishes him off. Furion tanking up this tower with the Lamb's Respite as Alfari is there. Furion needs to get out of tower range though. But now there's nobody left to defend. Alfari's all on his own. He gets onto Rifty, but he can't finish off the Armadillo. And even if he does, what does it matter? Because the Nexus has gone down. And Manalite have managed to come back into the game and take